2019 BESP. The subject is Phe22. Presenter Mrs. A.C. Steyn. Cell phone number 081 277 5321. Good morning, I'm Mrs. Ansie Steyn, your tutor for Phe22 for this year. Welcome to the presentation for this subject. I hope you enjoy your studies and that you will be successful this year. Success comes with dedicated, consistent work. My contact details are 081 277 5321, the cell phone number, and ansiesteyn@hotmail.com is my email address. You're welcome to contact me from Mondays till Saturdays from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. You can either phone me or SMS or email me. In the latter case, I can send you a detailed answer. Please feel free to ask if anything is unclear or if you have problems regarding your subject. I'm willing to assist as far as I can. I'm going to discuss the most important facts of each unit separately. You will then be able to follow the content discussed if you page through your study guide while I am discussing the content. Please note that this presentation is not a discussion of any exam paper, but of the most important content for the whole year. As an introduction to the study guide, I'm shortly going to explain some information regarding the guide itself. When you turn to the front of the study guide, you will find a detailed table of contents. Here you will find the headings of the complete content, and you will be able to have an overview of your subject for the year. Take time to read through it, to familiarize yourself with the content you are going to study. On page 7, you will find very important information regarding the time you are required to spend with a subject in order to be a successful student. Because this is distant teaching, it is very important that you spend adequate time right throughout the year with your study material. To just start studying before the exams will not be wise, and it will be hard to write the exams successfully. I recommend that you spend time during every day with your studies. Even half an hour every day will be worthwhile. Consistency is the key to being a successful student. When you turn the page, you will find action verbs. These words form the key of the assignment and also the exam paper. For example, when you are requested to analyze facts, you will have to present facts in detail. And when you have to outline, you have to only give an overview and present the main features. Make sure to know what is expected of you when these verbs are present in your assignment and exam paper. Also, read through 9 and 10. When you turn to Unit 1, you firstly find the table of content of this unit and then the learning outcomes. Learning outcomes are an indication of what content you will find in this specific unit. Learning activities follow the learning outcomes. In these learning activities, you will find specific questions regarding the content of the specific unit. It will be wise to firstly try to answer these questions on your own, and thereafter look at the answers which are at the end of each unit. When studying for the exams, use these questions to study because they form the core of the content and are very important. do not forget to also study the assignment you completed, because some of the questions will also be asked in the exams. So let us start with each unit separately now. Follow in your guide as I discuss the content. So in Unit 1, first of all, you need to understand what physiology is. It is a division of biology, and to be more specific, it is the science how living organisms function, whereas anatomy is about the structure of the body, what the parts of the body look like, their shape, and where the parts of the body and organs are located. This is set out in detail in 1.1. In 1.2, all the different systems of the body are named and their functions are described. Do you know all the different systems the body consists of? I'm only going to name a few. The nervous system, the respiratory system through which we breathe, the skin system, and also the immune system. These are only a few. Study to know them all, but also what each one consists of and each one's function in the body. The heart function, for instance, is to control circulation of the blood, which signals the carrying of oxygen, fuel, nutrients, waste products, and immune cells to various parts of the body. All these facts are set out in 1.2, so study them. In 1.3, we find the reasons why physical education is important and why exercises promote health and fitness. Exercise helps people to become fit, but also, if exercising regularly, the body remains fit. Exercise also helps the body to become healthier, in the sense that should a person suffer from diseases like type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure, exercise helps the body to become healthier. There are quite a few more advantages of exercises, so study them all. In 1.5, the importance of physical education in the upper primary is explained. Read, understand, and also study this in detail. Unfortunately, there are quite a few health problems experienced in young people today, like early pregnancy and childbirth. They are definite health problems currently. Also, HIV, malnutrition, not necessarily meaning not eating enough, but eating the wrong unhealthy food also. Mental health, which includes depression and anxiety, are also found amongst younger people. Tobacco use from an early age, harmful use of alcohol, violence, which is one of the leading causes of death among young people, and finally injuries, unintentional, are also a leading cause of death. You should know which health problems are experienced, but also know what each one entails. Do you know what can be done to reduce these problems? So study 1.6 in detail regarding these. When we page to 1.10, we read how teamwork of a sports team can be developed. Teamwork is very important before success can be achieved. So what can a coach do to develop teamwork? For a start, the coach should set the tone by being positive and enthusiastic. Therefore, players may not be allowed to be negative to one another. Neither should parents be negative to less skilled players. There are many more tips on how to develop teamwork. Study to know them all. 1.11 describes why jogging and walking are important. Firstly, jogging and walking are free. You need not pay to do these exercises. You do not need special clothes to partake. Jogging is more intense, so you burn more calories than when walking. It also strengthens the heart. So study 1.11 to find all the benefits of jogging and walking. These are the most important content to study in Unit 1. Let us look now at Unit 2, where aspects of movement theory and games for different phases of learners are discussed. The most important content of this unit are the 3 categories of fundamental movement as seen in 2.1. There are 3 categories that movement skills can be divided into, namely locomotion, manipulation, and stability. So let us look at locomotion. Locomotor movements are those movements where the body is transported in a horizontal or vertical direction from one point in space to another. In other words, when you run, you transport your body vertically upright from the starting point to the end line. Other examples of locomotion are jumping and skipping. Manipulation are gross motor manipulative movements using the large muscles like the arm muscles, which involve giving force to objects or receiving force from objects. Like when you hit a tennis ball, you give force to an object, the ball. And when you catch a baseball, you receive force from an object, namely the ball. Read about stability also in 2.1. These categories are very important to know. The next important content can be found in 2.3. When a baby is born, he or she cannot survive on their own and needs to develop certain skills. Each age group is associated with certain skills, so let us page to 2.3 to find out what they are. So the first phase is called the reflex behavior phase, lasting from the uterus of the mother until about 1 year, where the movements of the body are involuntary, done without thinking what to do and how. That is upon reflex, like when sucking, which is a survival reflex movement. Phase 2 is called the rudimentary movement ability phase, and that lasts from 0 to 2 years, where the infant makes the first voluntary movements, which lay the foundation for more complex movements. These movement abilities depend on the development and maturity of the infant. From 2 to 7 years, the fundamentally movement patterns are developed. These movement patterns develop from the previous phase, and they now experiment with their bodies and what they are potentially able to do, like learning to walk or to run or throw. They can also move in different ways now. Thereafter, the general movement skills are developed from 8 to 10 years. They are now in primary school, and they try to be accurate in their movements, like when playing in a certain sport. Phase 5 involves specific movement skills from 11 till 13 years of age, where further extension of their general movement skills take place. More complex sport skills are now required from children, so their skills are refined in this phase. The last motor movement phase is specialized skills development phase. It starts from about 14 years of age and lasts until adulthood. It is the development of isolated, that means specific skills, and for higher levels of performance, like concentrating on one sport, for example tennis, to become a star. But care should be taken not to start too early in developing these specific skills. You now have an overview of the different phases of motor development, but read and study them as set out in detail in 2.3. In 2.5, certain cardio-respiratory endurance activities are discussed. I'm only going to discuss one, which should be known, namely fatigue, which means to play with speed, running at varying speed, more specifically to alternate speed. By firstly run fast for 60 meters, then only jog for 40 meters, and again run fast for 60 meters. Can you now understand why it is called to play with speed? This kind of training increases the heart's ability to be efficient. It may aid aerobic and anaerobic abilities. Study 2.5.1 in this regard to know what fatigue entails and the benefits of this. In Unit 3, we're going to discuss when being a physical education teacher and also a coach, it will be expected from you to know certain gymnastic techniques like backward rolls. Very important. A coach should know 100% what a certain technique entails. Otherwise, learners can be injured during the execution. Let us look at the correct technique, which you should study in detail, found in 3.2. There are 3 ways to do backward rolls. First one, to work on the floor. Cover the springboard with a tumbling mat. Start in a crouch at the top end of the springboard. Keep the knees bent. Roll backwards, concentrating on the correct placing of the hands, and the hands must be kept next to the head, palms turned upwards. This is one of the backward roll techniques. So what you must do is choose one of the techniques described here and make sure to study your chosen one thoroughly, 100%. You should also know the correct techniques on how cartwheels should be executed, as described in 3.3. Also, should a physical education teacher know the different gymnastic vaulting activities. Their names are upward vaulting in 3 form, stretch vaulting with arms swinging, squat vaulting, straddle vault, pike vault, scissors vault, cat spring vault, long squat vault, gallop vaulting, pig vault, and long cartwheel vault. Make sure to study the names as found in 3.5. Also, study the names of different gymnastic balancing techniques and activities as found in 3.6. To execute gymnastic exercises usually requires certain equipment. However, one can also do gymnastics without any equipment. Can you think how? In 3.9, some exercises are described which do not require any equipment. Stand in a face-down pike position, as tight as you can, bracing your hands on the floor. Bend your elbows to lower your head to the floor. Then push back up. To make it harder, stand on your toes. Can you see a picture of this exercise in your mind? And can you describe it correctly? Read 3.9 in your study guide and choose at least 2 exercises without equipment you can picture easily in your head. Study to know how these 2 exercises are executed correctly. There are 4 paragraphs of importance in Unit 4. In 4.1, it is discussed why sport builds character. Sport plays a very important role in building physical endurance. It allows athletes to develop in goal setting in order to achieve their goals. In moral habits, like not taking or giving bribes, are reinforced. Also concentration, confidence, control, and commitment are developed when partaking in sport. Study to know the headings, but also what each heading entails in 4.1. The second paragraph to study is 4.11. 3 techniques to do high jump successfully are discussed here. Let us look what the scissors technique, which you should study, entail. One leg goes over the bar before the other one, like scissors when cutting. The athlete faces forward when jumping. However, this is not the most effective way of clearing the high jump bar. It allows athletes to clear about 1.6 meters. So study that. 4.20 is also important. It discusses the qualities of a good coach. What would you prefer a good coach should be like? Important is that he or she should have a good understanding of the sport coached. Should know the rules of the sport. He or she should know what equipment is needed. Should also be involved in research, also in the newest trends and innovations of the sport. The coach should encourage the athletes to believe in themselves. Also commands and earns respect. What about ethics? A good coach must not be open to bribes. Should teach the team members to accept the decisions of the referee during a game. Should teach the members to respect their opponents even if they lost a game. There are so many qualities of a good, effective coach should have. So study 4.20 in detail. Also, for you personally to know what will be expected of you, should you be the coach of an individual athlete, but also of a sports team. It does happen that a school principal can expect from a physical education teacher to plan, organize, and help with the execution of a school athletics or sports event. Can you think about important issues to organize in order to make it a successful event? Let us start from the beginning. You need the athletes' names and ages in order to divide them in their appropriate groups and also items you are going to present. You need helpers, the starter, catchers at the end of the race, the recorders of the winners, etc. There should be an announcer. There should be clean toilet facilities, food and cool drinks. Parents should be informed exactly when and where the event will take place. So you need to determine the venue, the starting time, with the consent of the principal, very important. I'm sure you will realize that there are many aspects to give attention to. Therefore, study 4.21 to know these aspects well. You can also study Learning Activity 6 at the end of Unit 4 in this regard. Unit 5 is about sport skills and rules. Remember that when I mentioned earlier in the presentation that a physical education teacher should know certain techniques by heart and 100%. Otherwise, learners can hurt themselves and will not be able to achieve their best in that sport code. In 5.2, it is set out precisely how a cricket ball should be caught. The catcher should stand with their feet shoulder width apart. Lean the torso slightly forward. You should be in a slightly hunched over position, meaning leaning slightly forward with the upper body. The feet firmly planted on the ground. Arms hang loosely in front of the body. Keep the arms slightly cupped. And as the ball comes nearer, bring the hands together, but still cupped. Then cup them around the ball. Try to picture this in your mind. It might make it easier to understand and to remember. Study to know this technique. The same goes for the rules of cricket as discussed in 5.3. Picture a cricket game in your head. You can even watch a game on TV to acquaint yourself with the rules. Study 5.3 to know these rules well. Also for when it will be required from you to coach the game of cricket to the learners at your school. Do the same with the rules of netball as discussed in 5.8. So know them well. As a physical education teacher, you should be able to manage group activities like games and competitions during a physical education lesson. In order to maintain proper discipline, you should know these facts. There are certain ways to follow in order to make it more effectively and also easier. In 5.10, this is discussed in detail regarding the equipment to use, the rules to establish, the discipline, the games and competitions to present, and also the choice of games and alternative scoring games. You should know 5.10 by heart. Safety on the playground is of utmost importance and is the responsibility of the teacher on duty. Can you think how you will make sure your learners are safe and always taken care of? Rules, for a start, are very important. You should set up some rules, but also the learners should understand and know these rules. Proper supervision at all times is very important. Never leave them in the hands of other learners, not even older ones. Water should always be available for learners to hydrate themselves regularly. You should know which learners have health problems like asthma, and also how they should be treated if necessary. In fact, there are many other measures regarding the safety of the learners, so study 5.11 well. But unfortunately, accidents can and do happen on the playground. How to handle them are described in 5.12 in detail. Study to know these first aid procedures. The last paragraph of importance in this unit is 5.13. Do you think it is important to keep to the rules of sports? Why? It is easier to play sports if learners understand the rules and know that these rules apply to both teams. Rules also ensure that the game can be recognized, like soccer and rugby, for example. Rules ensure that games are scored fairly and everyone is given an equal chance to succeed. Read through this paragraph and study the important facts. Unit 6 is about games for pairs, like tennis and chess, which are games for pairs. Games for large groups, like rugby and soccer. Games for small groups, like the numbers games and body part. Tag and dodging games, like this way and that way and partner tag. How can these facts be asked? You should be able to identify them and also give examples of each kind of games. For example, when identifying, you can have the question, soccer is a game for groups. What kind of groups? That is large groups. And it can be asked like, name a game for small groups. Then you must know that the number games is an example. So study 6.1, 6.2, 6.3 and 6.4 in this regard. When presenting a physical education class, traditional games can be presented for learners to identify themselves with their own culture and for the other cultures in your class to gain knowledge about their peers. I'm only going to give attention to two games, namely Fox and Geese and Bottle Tops, as described in 6.6. Each one of these games has a traditional name too. For example, Bottle Tops is also called Itu Okwe. When studying these two games, make sure to know exactly how they are played. It is of no use if you only know part of the game. I would suggest you play these two games yourself. Then it will be much easier to describe them. So study them as described in 6.6. Both of them. 6.8 is the last paragraph of importance in this unit, where lesson preparation for a lesson based on a game is discussed. So your lesson is going to be a game. This means if you prepare for a PE lesson and you want to let the learners play a specific game, what are the most important aspects to take into account? Which aspects should you take into account so that you make sure all learners take part? Study 6.8 in full in this regard. Very important. You should give attention to one of the learning activities in Unit 6, namely LA2. You are on supervision duty during break time. You want the learners to play interesting and a variety of games. Make a list of equipment you need in order for the children to play games during break time. Now the question is, how will you make sure the learners do not get bored but play a variety of games for the best participation. This LA is open-ended, meaning you can think about your own ideas to apply and should make you think of creative ideas. Think about it because it can be asked in a question paper. Let us look at the important content of Unit 7. There are certain elements of rhythm that you must teach your learners so that they can move effectively according to a certain rhythm you play to them. They must understand the underlying beat, the rhythmic pattern, the tempo, namely the speed of the music, the accent, the emphasis given to any one beat, and they must understand the intensity, how loud or soft the music is played. You should be able to name and discuss these elements as set out in 7.3. Dancing can be of much value to learners because it enhances flexibility, strength, endurance. Balance is influenced by stability. You must also be able to discuss the value of dancing with style. So read and study 7.5 in this regard. Noise being too loud can pose serious threats to children. How? It can interfere with speech and language development. It could impair, that means strain, hearing and also learning. It can result in permanent hearing loss. It can even disturb the cardiovascular system of a child, and it can disturb their sleep. These facts are set out in 7.6. In the last unit, 8, should be studied under the following paragraphs. 8.2, which describes all the different systems of the body. Study them all, but also the function of each system. There are certain consequences when being unhealthy and unfit. It increases the chance of illnesses such as heart disease, strokes, etc. It can cause being overweight and causes nutrient deficiencies in the body. Being unhealthy and unfit can also be the cause of increased and unprocessed stress because regular exercise releases chemicals that helps with stress release. Study 8.4 for these facts. In 8.5, the importance of hygiene is stressed. Study them well. You must also be able to teach the learners why it is important to keep their nails clean, to wash their hands regularly, and to keep their hair clean and manageable. Can you answer this? Page to 8.5 for the answers. Now, what nutrients does a body need to be healthy and well balanced? Carbohydrates for stimulating the immune system, proteins to build and repair the body, fats to protect our vital organs like the heart and the liver, vitamins because it utilizes, meaning uses, energy that it gets from, for example, proteins, fiber for a healthy digestive system, water to stay hydrated. So it's clear that our bodies need all these nutrients. 8.8 discusses these facts about a balanced diet. The last point of interest can be found in 8.9, where the harmful effect of drugs, alcohol, and nicotine is discussed. Study this in detail so that you know these effects in order to also discuss them with your learners. This concludes my discussion regarding the most important facts in your study guide. As mentioned previously, make it your priority to study right throughout the year, consistently and every day, even if you only study a short while, but every day. In conclusion to the presentation, I would like to mention a few important facts regarding your coming exams. Please take note of them. Please note that you only need to study your study guide for these exams. Before you study the actual content, you first need to acquaint yourself with the learning outcomes of each unit. These learning outcomes form the core of your studies and guide you through the content and can be found at the beginning of each unit. After you've studied this, you will know what the unit is all about. Thereafter, you must look at the learning activities which follow the learning outcomes. It will be wise to do all these activities to the best of your ability before looking at the answers at the end of each unit. After you've completed them, you can go back to the answers at the end of the unit and measure your knowledge against the complete answers. In this way, you will get to know the content and also will know how questions can be asked in the exams. The study guide contains adequate information and facts. It is not necessary to study from any other source for the exams. Remember to also study your assignment for the exams. Remember that when answering a question, facts from different parts of the study guide can be applicable. It is not necessarily limited to one part of the guide. It is also important to note that although physical and health education may seem as a non-exam subject for learners and a period where learners are encouraged to explore in a less formal environment, you as teacher should exactly know how to keep them busy and how and why certain activities should be presented. Therefore, the teacher should know certain facts about the subject PHE, as well as the correct procedures regarding the presentation of PHE. It is therefore of utmost importance that you as a student teacher should know facts regarding the subject PHE. I stress this because some students are of the opinion that this subject does not need to be studied for, and then they do poorly in the exams. Take time to know your study guide in order to present adequate facts during the exams. Now, just in conclusion, a few hints for the exams. Write neatly and legibly. You may use blue or black pen. Please do not even consider being dishonest. If found out, you will receive a 0 for the question paper. You may not leave the exam room before 30 minutes have expired. And if you do leave, you may not come back to continue answering the question paper. You may not leave the exam venue during the last 15 minutes of the exams. Remember to sign the checklist. No smoking or eating is allowed in the room. Only paper provided by the invigilator will be accepted. So if you need more paper to answer questions, ask them to provide you with paper. If you turn up 30 minutes after the exams have started, you will not be allowed to write, and this will result in no turn up. Make sure to know what is expected of you when a question is asked. Read through the action verbs at the beginning of the study guide. For example, define means you must give the precise, brief meaning of something, and describe means you have to give a detailed feature of an issue. Please note that short answer questions will be asked, and the following kinds of questions will be asked. To fill in words left out. For example, the question can be, what is used during relay races? And the correct answer you have to fill in will then be baton. Also, definitions of certain terminology can be asked. For example, of strength, which is the ability of the body to exert a maximum force against a force external to the body. Another type of short question is where two columns will be given, column A and column B. In column A, there are 3 facts. Exercise beneficial for a shot put athlete, speed, chocolates and sweet. In column B, there's an A, B, C. A, not a healthy option to eat. B, lunges. C, the ability to move from one place to another in the shortest time possible. So you have to find the correct answers. So 1 is B. 2 will be C. 3 will be A. But you only fill in the correct letters. Do not write out the words. Please feel free to contact me regarding any uncertainties and questions you have about your subject. Good luck with the exams. You will be rewarded for hard work and dedication.